Hello and welcome all of you awesome mech fans out there. We're coming back with a part 2 of the MegaMek tutorial. We're going to be covering in-game user interface and options that you have available to you. So let's just get right into it. All right, so here we've seen this back in part 1, the pre-drop lobby. And we kind of roughly went over some of the options and menu choices that you have in this. But what does it look like in-game? Well, let me show you. First of all, just to kind of go through a slight refresher, we're going to need somebody to play against. So why don't we add a princess bot? We'll do that now. Princess is put on team 2. We'll change ourselves to deployment east, and we'll put princess on deployment west, just so we have a good idea what's going on. Let's give me and princess like some random armies here to play around with. Nothing special or anything, just randomly generated. We'll go with some light mechs here. It'll generate some mechs for myself. Okay. And then we'll generate some mechs for princess, like so. Okay. And now I think we're ready to go. Obviously my battle value is slightly lower. But it's a tutorial, so it doesn't really matter. Balance is not really a thing. All right, so obviously we're going to need a map to play on. Now, we could go for a randomly generated map, but I feel the need to put in a map that is somewhat generic, similar to the map that you can get in the box set. Or Battletech. Not really seeing anything. Alright, well, I guess generated will have to do. Okay. And then obviously we have the team overview. I'm in blue, Princess is in red. Each of us have 4 mechs. Well, I'm 5 times over her. Alright, anyway. So, once we're ready to go, you don't have to do anything else with Princess because she'll automatically join. And we'll just hit I'm done. Now next, you're going to be greeted with the initiative phase for turn 1 for deployment, and better known as the deployment phase. This here, you'll notice, it shows our initiative roles, it shows the turn order that our units can go in, and depending upon how you have initiative set up in game options, you can pick a unit when it's your turn to move, or you can set it up to where each individual unit has their very own initiative score and they have to move in that order, either way. And then this gives you the wind, the weather, the visibility, if there's any fog. You can set those up in the planetary conditions in the pre-drop lobby. And then here it shows our BV, our battle value, and then remaining units and the percentage of that. If you have a live opponent, you can type down here in the bottom and you can talk to them, and you can even interact with these as well. All right, so let's move on to turn 1. So for deployment, you'll see we have our little randomly generated map here. And you'll notice that these 3 hex rows are generated, or are highlighted, excuse me. Typically when you pick a deployment edge, you'll be able to deploy in the first 3 hexes from that edge. So Princess will be able to deploy from her side 3 hexes from the left. So for our first mech, it's a Mislinks. And we'll look over here. Now, you'll notice that this is a doc, and it's details unit information for each one of our mechs. I've been told in later versions this will be taken care of, this will be rid of, and so typically over here you'll see a movable window, and this window will pop up when it's your turn to either move or fire or act with your mech. I'm trying not to cough during the tutorial. All right, so as we can see here, the Koshi, or the Mislinx, is armed with advanced tactical missiles and ER smalls. So I'm thinking we're going to put him right... Put him up here on the hill. Why not? And then we'll hit deploy. And then it'll move on to the next one. We have a Valiant with ER medium lasers on it. Okay. So we'll put him, say, in the middle right here. And then we get the good old-fashioned fire starter, which has a rotary AC2 and 3 flamers. That's an interesting build, but we'll put him right down there for now. And then last but not least, we have another Mislinx armed with an Ultra Autocannon 2, an ER small and an ER medium. And we'll probably just jam him right in the middle as filler at the moment. Now, if you notice, as I'm deploying, Princess is also taking her turn by deploying her mechs on the left side of the map. Princess is completely automated. It is the artificial intelligence bot that you can put in to play against in MegaMek, and you can put in as many bots as you believe your machine can handle. Typically, I've seen, in any given drop, personally, I've seen anywhere between 3 and 4, but I've been told that you can put up to like 20, 30 bots at a time. And typically that's the case if you're doing really large battles. You want to split up the enemy units in between bots to kind of spread the computing load across multiple units, then across multiple bots. It just makes it easier for the program to run a little better. All right, so we're going to hit deploy on our last unit. And the deploy button's behind my head. You can't see it. So here we are. We're back on the initiative phase for round 1, now that we're done with deployment. And it gives us all of our relevant information. I've beat Princess out on initiative. And here we have the turn order and all the other information below that as well. So we're going to hit done and move into round 1. All right, so if you noticed, I'm going to zoom in here just for a moment. One of Princess's mechs has moved. You'll also notice that the name that it is tagged with is gray. If it's in light blue, that means it has not moved yet, or has not taken an action for that phase of the turn. If it is in gray, it has already taken an action for that phase in the turn. So we are currently in the movement phase, followed by the weapon phase. So the white right here has moved. But the Mislinx and the Incubus have not moved, and neither has the Wasp. So now the Princess has taken her turn to move, then I get to move. So let's go a little deeper on this little window right here that you see. Okay, so right here we have our Mislinx, which is highlighted. And under the General tab here, and it might be kind of hard to see on the video, you have the pilot name, the player, the team, the status, the weight, their movement speeds, if they have any heat, the capacity, and any other relevant information. On the next tab, you have the pilot information. And then under the armor tab, it gives kind of a ragdoll, there we go, of all the different parts of the armor and the internal structure and even the heat gauge that you can take a look at. It's nice to have a graphical representation of the ragdoll, but also bear in mind you can also get a tooltip for your mech as well, and that will show you some quick information that you can discern, like how much damage have I taken, like the armor toll, movement, gunnery, piloting, just kind of at a quick glance if you hover over a unit momentarily. Next up, we have the Systems tab. I don't really use this tab that much. I don't look at it much, but if you want to know what parts on your mech have gotten critically hit, or what weapons are possibly damaged, or any other subsystems that may be messed up on the mech that you have selected, then this might be a good tab to take a look at. It shows you your weapons, your equipment, and then you can sort it by individual section of the mech, and take a look at those individually. Next, and probably one of the more important tabs on this window, is the Weapons tab. Here you can see and sort your weapon order. You can do it by default, you can do it by range, low to high, high to low, damage, the various weapons arc, or you can customize it. I usually go with high to low just so I have an ordered list of this is the longest range weapon at the top, and then whatever's at the bottom is going to be the shortest range out of the list. All right. Below that, you'll see all the various weapons, obviously. And when you see that I highlight that weapon, you'll see I have my ATM launcher, and it can fire pretty far. And then you see the ER small lasers have a shorter range, obviously, and that updates when you switch between different missile systems, or weapon systems, excuse me. And then below that, if you have a weapon system that uses different kinds of ammo, you can use this drop down to swap between them. I just have standard ATMs loaded into this mislinks. All right, and then below that, you'll see your heat buildup. This is an extremely important part of this window. What this tells you is the first number tells you how much heat you currently possess. The second number tells you how much heat you will sink at the end of the turn. If the first number is greater than the second number, you will carry heat from your current turn into the next turn. So say, for example, I had garnered 29 heat, but I can only heat sink 20 heat. 9 heat would carry over to the next turn, and this number that says 0 would say 9. So I would have less heat to play around with to fire weapons on my next turn. There are also other heat effects that you can gain, like if you're hit with a flamer, or if you take engine criticals. I think it's 5 heat per engine critical that you have on your mech. You start venting heat, which your heat sinks have to compensate for. But that is an extremely important part. Coming up next here, we've got the weapon system that's selected. It shows you all the relevant information down below here. So we have selected the ATM-6, and it says ATM-6, how much heat it produces, what damage type it is, or how much damage it causes. Obviously, according to the rules, I believe standard ATMs do 1 point each. Either 1 point or 2 points. I don't remember. Here's a better example. So here we have the ER small, gains 2 heat, does 5 damage. And then it shows you down here the range. ER smalls do not have minimum range. They have a short range of 1 to 2, which gains you no penalty. Medium range of 3 to 4, which gains you a +2 penalty. And then all the way up to long range from 5 to 6 hexes, which gain you a +4 penalty. Now, obviously, I want to shoot at something, and my ER smalls don't have anything within range. So when we get to the firing phase, I'll show you how to get in range and start hitting stuff. And then if I wanted to, you can also look down below, and it will show you also all the relevant information, modifiers leading to what is affecting your shot, and then it'll show the target, how far you know, what's the range to target, and obviously the number that is required to hit. That number will also be followed by a percentile in parentheses. Go by your gut what the number says, not what the percentile says. That's a personal preference, but if you would rather use the percentage, that's fine too. And then last but not least on this window, we also have the extras tab. This shows you sensors, different types of sensors that you can use. I usually don't look at this tab that often, to be frankly honest. Searchlights. You can change the number of active heat sinks that you have. Your last target, activate hidden unit, stop activating. There's a lot of stuff in here. But 9 times out of 10, I don't really mess with it. So for now, we're just going to move. All right, now movement is actually quite simple. So if you have the option turned on, and if you go up to view, you can click on show possible moves or control Q. This will bring up this weird colored blue and yellow hex outline. In the blue, you're using your walk speed. In the yellow, you're using your run speed. And then obviously it follows the basic rules of Battletech for movement. Moving through different terrain costs different amount of movement points. Going up and down elevations, turning in place, all that stuff applies. Just like the tabletop movement. So we're going to move forward here. And if you'll see, we have some arrows and some numbers. So this number designates that from moving from this hex to this hex takes 2 movement points. It's because this hex is level 2 and this hex is level 3. So I'm going down a level. And if you want a better representation of that, you can go into view and you can check mark isometric view. And it gives everything kind of a nice 3-dimensional feel to it. So we go from 2, and then to move into this forest downhill is 6, and then to move uphill into the sand is 8, and then downhill is 10, and then another hex forward is 11. So we're going to do that by executing this move with the move button behind my head that you can't see. Hold on just a moment. The move button right here. And we'll just click on that. All right, so after I've moved, you see the little animation and the little mislinks has moved over to this hex. Now it's moved on to my next unit that I need to move. And the Valiant has ER mediums, so we're going to move him into a good position to shoot. I see the mislinks has already moved, so, and he's pretty fast, so if I can pull it off, I possibly can go in for a physical attack. Now this brings up an excellent point. There are some mechs that you'll move them and you'll be like, whoa, I'm familiar with the blue and the yellow, but what's this orange stuff? Huh. Well, glad if you have asked. Basically, the orange tells you that you either have equipped a subsystem on that mech that allows you to move faster. Typically, that's going to be a system called Mask, but that's how it's usually represented. You'll notice that it also still counts, so 12, 13, 14. But you'll notice this extra number there, this 3+. This mech has Mask. So if it rolls a 3 or higher on 2d6, it'll be able to pass his Mask test, and it'll be able to continue to move. If it fails its Mask test, then bad stuff happens. But then again, if you're familiar with Battletech, I'm basically telling you stuff you already know. Anyway, let's move on. You also see it in parentheses up here. So typically this mech can move 11, but with mask it can move up to 14. So we're just going to move up to there by hitting move. And it'll give you a little pop-up prompt. The movement you have selected will require a roll of 3 or higher to avoid mask failure. Do you wish to proceed? You'll also see this little check mark here that says, do not bother me again. Probably wise not to check mark that, because then it literally will never ask you. I personally like having these pop-ups to remind me, just in case I'm not paying attention. But if you know what you're doing and you're not planning on having any problems moving forward, then by all means go right ahead. But we're gonna just hit yes for now. And it looks like I passed my mask test, and then the wasp over here has moved behind me. So we're gonna move on to moving the next unit, which is my fire starter. But before I do that, I want to give you guys a brief overview of the buttons that I've been using down below here. And we'll start from left to right here. So to begin with, let me move my cam back here. You'll see next unit. This little button right here allows you to swap between the different units that you have under your control. So if I wanted to, I could use that Mislinks, or I could use that fire starter, but it'll only swap between the units that haven't already acted that round. Here we have the turn button. If you want to change hex facings, like say towards the beginning of your move or towards the end of your move, or like you want to be facing in a specific direction, and it's not quite doing it by just clicking somewhere in one of the colored squares, the blue or the yellow squares. You can do that by clicking turn and then clicking on the hex facing that you want to face towards. Next, we have the charge button. It charges. If you're familiar with BattleTech rules for charge, there you go. Next, we have the walk button. This is a good button to have if like you've hit the jump button or another mode of transport of movement. You can click on walk and it'll put you back into walk mode or run mode. Next button, obviously the most powerful button in all of BattleTech and MegaMek combined, the death from above button. Use this button if you want, and if your mech is equipped with jump jets and you want to jump in the air and slam down on the head of one of your opponents. Keep in mind, you can only DFA enemy units that are grayed out on their name and have already moved. If they haven't moved yet, you cannot DFA them. Next, we have the jump button. If your mech is equipped with jump jets, it gives you this awesome area. I can jump anywhere in this area. And then if you don't want to jump, you can just click back on walk. Here we have the go prone button. We have the backup button if you want to, you know, turn on the beep, 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 and go backwards. Next, we have the more button, which shows you even more buttons. So we have the eject button. Some of these buttons are grayed out because they're illegal to use based upon the conditions of the current drop. Typically, you can only flee if your unit is adjacent to the map edge. You can mount, so elementals, battle armor, can mount on a mech that is capable of carrying them. You can, here we have an unjam rack. We have an eject button if you just want to prematurely eject. Go up if you're going to climb, go up and go down if you want to climb up or climb down things in a land unit that's capable of doing so. Those are also useful for air units, say for hover drop ships that want to hover up and down, or if you want to change altitude in an aerotech fighter. Load I'm not exactly familiar with. That's something I'm going to have to probably go over later. And then unload. I think those mostly have to do with like if you have a landed dropship in your unloading mechs, or if you have a personnel carrier and you want to unload the infantry from it or load infantry from it, those two buttons I think come in handy. Yes, I'm almost positive. And then we also have one more button over here next, and then we have brace, searchlight on, reckless, hold down, evade. There's climb mode. I knew I was right. And then umu, not to be confused with uwu. And then if you hit more, it comes back right back full circle back to the first page of buttons. All right. Now that that's done, and the done button never moves, so the done button's always there. The done button is your friend. Love the done button. All right. So here we're going to move, and this mislink is armed with a Ultra AC2. So we're going to... Does the thing have minimum range? Let's find out. Why, yes, it has minimum range. Huh. I'm thinking we stay there. I'm not going to move. Brilliant. And then his Vixen is moved so that we're going to dogpile and move up even further. Does this fire starter have jump jets? Yes, he does. We're going to jump up here. We're going to hit the turn button because I don't want to face that way. I want to face this way. So we're going to click on this hex. And it turns the turn arrow, and then we hit move to execute. And there's the round report for the movement phase. So obviously I had to make a check on my Valiant for my mask. I needed a 3, rolled a 4, very close, but I managed to pull it off. And now we're to the off-board attack phase. And apparently one of Princess's mislinks has a tag laser. And now we're on to the shooting phase. And I briefly went over what the weapons tab looked like, but this usually auto pops up on a unit when it's your time to shoot. So we have this awesome ATM, and we have this guy who's in perfect range of it, so we're going to shoot him. So we have ATM 6 selected. We select the target so that they're slightly highlighted in blue here. And you'll notice that most of the bottom part here populates. Here's my target, the range to the target, and then the 2 hit number for the target. That number is what you need to roll on or over, under, over, under, no, over. On or over. In order to hit the target with that weapon system. And then there's the percentage. And then down below here is actually quite useful. This breaks down what led to the 2 hit number. So that pilot has a gunnery of 3. I ran, so that's an automatic +2 penalty. The target moved 3 to 4 hexes, that's a +1 penalty. And then the target is also in light woods or light cover, so that's another +1. So 3 + 2 +1 +1 is 7. All right, so we have the weapon selected, we have the target selected. What do we do now? Well, there's this awesome little button down here called fire. You're going to want to click that for every weapon system that you want to shoot at your target. So for the ATM, we're going to hit fire, and then it bumps down to the next weapon system. Here we need an 11 to hit. We'll throw it anyway. And as you'll notice, as I'm firing weapons, they're getting this little +" symbol next to them. That means that they are currently active, they are firing. And you'll notice my heat buildup has gone to 8 out of 20 that I can sink. So I've still got room to fire with. So let's fire another one. Let's fire another one. And let's fire all of them. I mean, we've got the heat to do this. And after that's done, it puts up the attack arrow, shows all the statistics, and then it bumps into the next unit that can fire. So also on the screen, you'll notice what your enemy is firing at. He has a plasma rifle? Good lord. So you'll notice that the Vixen is shooting back at me. So I came over here to smack this Mist Lynx with this Valiant, but I'm afraid if we look at all... No, he is in range. The Fire Arc has him in perfect range of all the shots. But I don't want to shoot at him because he's at a +4. I want to shoot at this Vixen, but this Vixen's not my Fire Arc. Well, that's where the twist button comes into play. So what you can do is you can click twist, click him, and while your legs are facing in the direction of this little arrow on the front of your mech, your upper torso is facing one hex facing to the left or to the right. This is called torso twisting. So with that, and now I brought the Vixen into my Fire Arc, and I need 7s to hit him. So I hit fire, fire, and fire again. So I'm alpha striking with him, and now it's moved on to the fire starter. And let's keep laying on the pain here. So we're going to keep shooting that Vixen. I need 9s. Probably the best I'm going to get with that rotary autocannon. But wait, it's a rotary autocannon. Can it fire more than once? Yes, yes it can. In order to do that, you'll see that the mode button is highlighted after I selected that weapon. Just click mode, and you'll see it is switched to 2-shot mode. Or mode again to 3-shot, 4-shot, 5-shot, 6-shot, and then back to single shot. I think I got a pretty good chance of hitting this guy, so I'm going to swap it all the way to 6 shots. Because I only need 9s to hit him. Not terrible, but not great either. So here we're going to hit fire. And as you'll notice, my flamers, I'm not close enough to hit the target with those, so I won't be using those. And I won't be firing those, so we'll just hit done for now. Last but not least, we have my other Mist Lynx up here on the hill. And he also has a ultra autocannon. And yes, just like the rack, ultra autocannons can be put into ultra mode using the mode button. So you'll see it's changed from single to ultra. Click on the target, it gives our 2-hit score, and we'll hit fire. And we can also hit him with our ER medium lasers. We'll hit fire. And unfortunately, he's outside the range of the ER small laser, so we'll just hit done. Excuse me. So now that everybody has fired, Princess has fired back at me, I have fired at Princess, we come to the weapon attack phase screen. This shows you all of the results of all of the mechs and all the firing phase of all the units in it. So here we have the white shooting his plasma rifle at my Mist Lynx and missing. It even shows you the number he needs and the roll that he actually made, or she made. And it's Princess. And if you hover over this, you'll see a little tooltip, or you can click on it and it will give you a breakdown of what was required in order to, or what led to that number having to be rolled on or over. Next, we have my Mist Lynx with the ATM-6 shooting at the Vixen, and I managed to hit with an 11 and 3 missiles, causing a significant amount of damage. And then I shot all of my ER small lasers on that mech as well, only hitting with 1 ER small. Needs an 11, managing to roll an 11, but the rest of them unfortunately missed. Coming up here, we have the Vixen shooting its PPC back at my Mist Lynx and hitting him in the left leg for 15 points of damage, just completely destroying the armor, completely destroying the section. In other words, the left leg is now missing on that mech. And then the remainder of the damage transferring to the left torso. Here, it did internal damage, so it's going to try to roll for a critical hit. But there's no point, considering the fact that the left leg is missing. Turn that off. So no effect, because there's no leg to affect. And then here it says takes 4 damage to left torso because it transferred. And then it rolls for destroying my searchlight, and then shows you the remaining armor. And then here we have another shot by the same unit up here. It hit me in the center torso. And then the ER medium, his ER medium missed. And then moving to my Valiant, I shoot all 3 of my ER medium lasers, but I'm sadly only 1 hit. And then the Wasp versus the Koshi, we see the results of that. The Firestarter versus the Vixen, unfortunately I missed. The Koshi versus my Koshi managed to hit me with an LRM-5 with all 5 missiles, and his second LRM-5 hit with 2, and his third LRM-5 hit with 4. And then here we move up to my Koshi shooting his Vixen with the Ultra Autocannon 2. 1 shot only hit out of the 2 shots that I shot out of the autocannon, because it's in ultra mode. And then obviously the ER medium hit as well. Now, usually towards the bottom of these weapon fire screens, you'll see an area that shows how much, if somebody has taken enough damage or is missing a leg, and a immediate piloting skill roll is required in order to keep standing or to stay safe. So here you'll see that my mislink needs to make 2 piloting skill rolls because his leg was destroyed and he took more than 20 points of damage as per the rules of Battletech, and that my piloting base target is 4. So roll number 1, leg destroyed. There's no way to pass that roll, so I fall. And then it says falls on right side, suffering 3 damage, takes 3 damage to CT, 0 armor remaining, and then my pilot needs to make a roll to stay conscious and not take any damage. And it goes through that various stuff as well. Once that's done, it moves on to the next unit. The Vixen that took a considerable amount of damage also must make a piloting roll, but unfortunately fails and falls and has to make pilot damage roll and a consciousness check. But that's the bottom of that, so then we'll move on to the next phase by hitting done. Here we move on to the physical phase. The physical phase is where you get down and dirty and start beating each other up with fists and hatchets and anything you can get your hands on. Could be trees, severed mech arms and legs, you name it. So you'll notice that all my other mechs can't do any physical combat. It's because the program has automatically taken into account that they're not near anything that can be struck, so therefore it automatically passes them. But my Valiant is near and within an attack arc of this mislinks. If I try to click on another unit, it'll say aim weapon blow, punch, hatchet. I could punch him, but I could not kick him. So what I want to do is I'm going to hit this mislinks, and apparently this mech is armed with a hatchet as well, so we could punch him, we could kick him, or we could use the hatchet on him. Let's use the hatchet. And then it'll give you a pop-up. Here's the 2-hit score, and here's all the relevant information leading up to why you have to roll a 10 to hit, and then it shows the weapon damage. I'm feeling lucky, so let's try to hit him with the hatchet. So here we show the round report on the physical attack phase. So the mislinks here tried to target my Valiant and missed. And then the Wasp tried to target my Valiant and missed. And then I tried to target the mislinks and missed. But you'll notice that I used a hatchet and the Wasp used a punch. But when you use a kick, you have to make a piloting skill roll, and that's notated right here, where the Koshi has to make a piloting roll because they missed their kick and they succeeded on their roll. Moving on to the next phase. Here we have the end of round screen. This shows the heat phase, any control rolls that are required by aerospace pilots or conventional air pilots or anything that basically flies. And then also down at the bottom, any notes for end phase, like things that take place specifically in the end phase, would be noted here. Typically, these two entries are empty, but the heat phase is the one that I usually pay attention to. It denotes how much heat you gained by weapons fire or walking or using jump jets or whatever manner of things, how much heat you sank, and then obviously how much heat you have remaining. If you have any heat remaining in this phase, that heat will carry over to the next phase on that unit. And it lists everybody that generated heat for that turn. And then we hit done, and a new round begins. It rolls for initiative and continues forward on an infinitum until one side is obliterated or your victory conditions have been successful, whatever. But there's pretty much the gist of in-game drop UI. Obviously down here you have the player list, you have the chat list. Up here in the top left, you can save your games, load your games, quick save your games, quick load your games, and obviously if you're running on a server, you can save your game to the server. Here, under game, you can replace players. So if you're a buddy of yours, you're playing co-op with them, and they had to go because their mom's screaming at them that they need to do the dishes, you can replace that player with a bot and continue playing. Here we can check the player list, we can change game options that are available to be changed, we can change player settings, we can reinforce from a mule file, and a mule file stands for master unit list, or .mul. Those files are basically for units that you have set up in the lobby of MegaMek and have saved to a file. You can load all of those units that are saved to a file back into the game via that file by using reinforce from mule list. You can also reinforce from unit generator, which brings up the unit generator, so we can add more units in the middle of the game from here as well. And then over here we have save units that are currently in the drop to a mule file. And then you can refresh unit cache. I don't usually mess with any of that. And then up here we have board stuff. So new, open, save as, validate board. This is usually has to deal with map boards. If you use it, awesome. I don't really use it as often, and I'm not extremely familiar with it. So, but here are those menu items in case you need them. View I find kind of important. Obviously, this is stuff that can affect how you see the game, and you can increase and decrease your GUI scale, reset your window positions in case you lose a window, accessibility window in case I don't know if they have, I'm not really sure what accessibility window does. If somebody finds out, let me know. And then here we have our keyboard shortcuts, unit overview, unit zoom, isometric view, hex coordinates if you want those on or off. I typically have them off because I like a pretty map. Change unit label display, so if you want different names or by unit type on each of your units, you can do that as well. You can turn the unit display on and off. You can turn your mini map on and off. You darken the outside of the field of view, line of sight settings, and so forth and so on. These are pretty self-explanatory, and typically 9 times out of 10 you can activate them or deactivate them with a hotkey and or this check marks. You tell you exactly what is active and what is not active. Last but not least, we have help. Everybody loves help. This will tell you how to reskin MegaMek to your liking. I kind of like the default, but your mileage may vary. This shows you the contents, obviously, and everything you need to know about MegaMek, development, and so forth and so on. Wow, I've never seen it wiggle like that. Wiggle, wiggle. So, outside of that, I really don't have anything else to go over for part 2 here of our tutorial. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions moving forward, please feel free to put them down in the comments below, or catch us on our Filthy Casual Discord server. And there's a link to that from our Twitch channel, which there's a link below the video too if you want to check us out live. We also do MegaMek ourselves for a MegaMek campaign live on Saturday nights. But that's it. That's all I got. So here's looking forward to part 3 of our MegaMek tutorial series, where we're going to probably be getting into more nitty-gritty stuff answering questions that, if anybody has any. That's pretty much the gist of MegaMek. If not, and we don't have any questions moving forward, part 3 will probably consist of moving into the beginning and getting set up for Mech HQ, the campaign suite for MegaMek. But that's not until next week. But until next time, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me and learning MegaMek. But until part 3, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.